Hello and welcome back, and today we want to compare a couple of NASs, but we're not going to go through all the bells and whistles of my other comparison video that we talked about both of these devices where we compared brand against brand and old versus new. What we're talking about today is for people that have already decided they're going to buy a Synology NAS, whether it was the software and all the apps, the utility of it, it was the compact and streamlined nature of it. For one reason or another, you've already decided to buy a Synology NAS, and when you were looking at it, you were looking at the ones that had just been released, the 720 and the 920 with their quad-core memory and, you know, stuff going all over the place, and just thought, I'm not going to use all of that. I don't really need to go that high up. And underneath that tier was another one, because with those two top tier releases, we had these two. This is the DS420 Plus, and this is the DS220 Plus, with the 420 being released first. Now, straight away, you might be wondering, why am I focusing on these two NASs? Well, half the audience already knows because you found this video on Google. The reason is because these two are actually surprisingly similar in their internal hardware and memory. Both of them arrive with the same CPU, the J4025, a dual-core 2.0 GHz processor that can be upgraded, burst even, to 2.9 GHz. It's an AES-NI encryption-enabled CPU with 4K and 1080p transcoding. It's got hot swapping enabled into the front of it with those bays. And the memory inside is DDR4. 2 gig of Synology DDR4 memory at 2666 megahertz, and that memory can be upgraded to 6 gig. So aside from this one being a 2-bay and this one being a 4-bay, why is there like 120 to 150 pounds price difference between them? That is an enormous leap between these two NASs that, frankly, the kind of PC builder spec that people care about, they've looked at and gone, that's a big old difference between these two. Why on earth would I buy that one when that one is 150 nicker cheaper? And you're completely right. Why would you? And that's the reason for today's video. We want to talk about whether you are better off with this or better off with that. We could talk about Synology software, and we will, but in a slightly more tangential way. We're going to talk about the difference between them, and hopefully by the end of this video, you'll know whether you've saved 150 nicker or you should spend 150 because it would save you a lot more. So, what have they got in common? Well, they run that software largely identically in most cases. The CPU and the memory inside these will mean that in their vanilla build with no memory upgrades or any extras, if you put 2 drives inside that and 2 drives inside that, it will run the apps near enough identically. But the point is 2 drives. This device supports 4 hard drives. It's not the only big difference, and it certainly doesn't justify a 150 nicker price difference, but the 2 additional hard drive bays in this give it more expandability. The 220 doesn't even have the SATA port that its formative predecessor had. It's got the 2 LAN ports for link aggregation, and it's got USB, but that's your lot. Once you've filled up those 2 hard drive bays, you're going to have to buy new hard drives down the line and introduce them and swap them out to increase your RAID overall, but ultimately 2 hard drives is your limit. This device, again, it has 4 bays, and the 4 bays are your limit. There is no expandability on this NAS. It's got the same 2 1 GBE LAN ports, and it's got a USB port as well. So the device arrived with more storage by default, which is good, but there's other reasons why it might be better to go for it. First and foremost, that RAID configuration, because a RAID 5 or SHR across 4 disks can work out lower price per terabyte than a RAID 1 or an SHR on a 2-bay. Because on this 2-bay, say you wanted 10 TB, you'd have to buy 2 10 TB drives in a mirrored RAID configuration if you want to factor that in, and have to buy 2 10 TB drives, which are pretty expensive, right? But with this device here, you can buy 4 TB drives, or 4 3 TB drives if you want 9 terabytes, if you want to get really picky. But the point is, those smaller drive arrangements will actually give you a lower price per terabyte than 2 larger drives, because the larger drives have more construction involved, have a higher price tag, and as they're newer, have kind of the new tax thrown on top. So that might be something you have to bear in mind. And also, don't overlook that you can buy this and just populate 2 bays and then add storage media later and expand the RAID. This doesn't have that expandability. So again, it's still good, but it's not £150 good. So what else is the difference between them then? Well, the biggest one is, of course, on the base. The 420 Plus arrives with NVMe SSD caching bays. What that means is you can add SSDs to this device, which will then further improve your internal operation speed. So these NVMe SSDs generally should be around 10% of your storage media. So if you've got 10 terabytes in here, you want at least 1 terabyte of SSD to complement them caching wise, and that is not an exact science, by the way. But the SSD caching base means you can further improve your performance either on day 1 or day 9000 or whatever. What that means is this device has that scalability built in. You don't have to use it, and it will of course cost more money to buy additional SSDs. But you have scalability in this that you just don't have in this 2-bay. It doesn't have the upgradability there. You can upgrade the memory. They've both got an upgrade slot inside for another 4 gig of DDR4 memory from Synology, but it doesn't have that ability to increase internal performance down the line in the way this does, which in terms of future-proofing may well be vital for you. I mean, again, if you're not going to use that facility, you're not even going to push this device that hard, this point may be pointless anyway. But it has to be said that that is one of the core 3 ways in which this device makes up that £150 price difference. And again, I say 150, depending if you shop around, you can get it a bit less, I'm sure. The last difference is warranty, with the DS220 Plus arriving with 2 years of warranty and the DS420 Plus arriving with 3 years of warranty. Now, is that important? Well, you tell me. If you ever had to claim something broken on a warranty, if you've ever had a hardware malfunction in your life, or you're utilizing this device in a business environment, you will know that a good, reliable warranty is worth the money. And I'm not going to say that additional bays, SSD, and warranty works out 50 nicker each, but what I will say is the extra year's warranty is worthy of comment. It's definitely worth your attention, because having that factored in line with the future-proofing of the hard drive bays and the SSD bays as well, it means that the device will last that bit longer, both in terms of, you know, if there's an issue down the line, but also in terms of upgradability. If you're using this for Plex Media Server, those NVMEs might be useful down the line as your multimedia gets more complex and your storage device starts to, you know, seem a bit old. So again, you are spending that money now to save it later. But if you don't think you're going to be utilizing SSD caching, if this device is already seems like premium overkill for you, and you're not going to be using a multi-user environment more than about 5 simultaneous users, then chances are the 420 may not be the one for you. But ultimately, either one of these is a great example of what Synology have put out to us here in 2020. Why not let me know what you ended up going for in the end in the comments. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful towards your purchasing decision, click like and click subscribe to learn more about NAS as we learn more and more about the new technology that's arriving right now in summer 2020. I'll see you next time.